Hello and welcome everybody to the Truth Lab. This is episode 14. I'm your host, Alex Landry. Today's guest is Justin Harvey. He was actually episode 7. He gets the award for being the only interview I've done so far that was banned from YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Medical misinformation, so I ended up having to put it on Rumble.
Sorry
But
about that.
it's okay, man. It's okay. I mean, I do try to tread lightly, to get it on YouTube, just because no matter what, that's where most of the views are. And then I'm still learning the science of trying to break it down into shorts and get it out on
Yeah, yeah.
Instagram or other platforms to then just kind of maybe feed back into it. But
I'll be a little more careful this time with my wording.
it's all good. It's all good. Well, I'm glad we were just able to, catch up a little bit before we started. Uh, how about you fill us in, man? I mean, congratulations. It's June 2nd right now, so come July 1st, Florida will be the second state to be fluoride free. How's that feel?
Yeah, so it's just been a really exciting 6 months. We got the federal court ruling and the Surgeon General in Florida to really step up afterwards and give us the ammunition to just go across the state and help 26 Florida communities remove fluoride from their water within 6 months, which is unprecedented. We would maybe get one or two or three a year over the years, and it would just really fall on deaf ears. But we hit the ground running, and with so many great local community members speaking at city council meetings, sending lots of emails, making phone calls. It really added up, and they saw the writing was on the wall. This is a forced medical procedure, just like COVID. You should give people a choice, and it's just got way too many risks. And we were able to really get through to people. Like I always joke, in rooms that we were typically laughed out of for many years, some of them were calling and working with us to get the fluoride out of the water. So it was really exciting. We can talk more about it, but we had a handful of cities, were resistant, but most of them got on board and voted it out before the state ban was put in place, which takes effect, like you said, on July 1st.
I'm kind of stuck here in the middle because I'm in Palm Harbor, so we have
Okay.
Springs to the north, and obviously it's great because I do believe they're fluoride free as of now, Tarpon Springs. And I don't want to go on, but the new mayor there, he wants Tarpon to be like a blue zone, which I think is really cool. I'm not sure if you heard about that. So I've kind of gotten a feel for my community through Facebook groups, kind of
Mhm.
posting, sometimes, reposting some of your posts just to kind of see. And I will say a majority is positive responses, but of course you have, like anything, you can't get everybody to
Yeah.
agree, you know.
Yeah, the usual responses are always there. But I mean, that's good that people are more receptive. I think people are more receptive than ever to this topic because in this post-COVID world, like I said, the forced medical procedure thing is like, oh wait, medical mandates, we just went through that. So we had lots of light bulbs go off with RFK and Dr. Latipo bringing this up, and even Governor DeSantis calling it a forced medication. That was huge. We never had a governor, a surgeon general step up and say these things about fluoride. That was always the crazy conspiracy theorists, right? Like our job. But now we had these people in official capacity doing it. So yeah, you really did see the writing on the wall with certain council members and just getting on board and voting to remove it. Can't say the same for all. We had plenty of trouble in Clearwater. Tarpon Springs was tough. I mean, we got it way late, and we still count it, but it was essentially at the final hour as well when the state ban was really about to happen.
Yeah, I was about to say I was disappointed with Clearwater.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, because you went there, right? You were there.
Yeah, and it was more disappointing with the ones that like couldn't make a decision. I'd almost rather you make up your mind and vote to keep it in than to just say, "Oh, well, I don't know what to do and the people are going to be upset at me." And they were scared. They're scared to make a bold decision and they just deferred to the state. And that's a weak thing to do. It shows the state that you can't make difficult decisions, gives them the reason to take that power away from you when you do need it in other circumstances. So it's just a bad look all around. I just like I said, I'd rather have someone strongly and confidently disagree with me than just be like, I don't know, I can't make a decision because I'm not smart enough or strong enough to make one.
Yeah, and it's almost like they kind of, I mean, by not making a decision, I mean, I think they technically voted no, right? I mean, it's not like it was.
Right, right.
Oh, you get what I'm saying? So I mean, they made
Yep.
a decision, but then they just kind of defaulted to the perceived scientific consensus. That like, oh,
Yep.
a tinfoil hat if you question this. Like who are you?
Yep. Safe and effective.
Yeah, I don't want to focus most of our discussion tonight on this, but it does make me wonder like the cost savings. Like how much money was being spent to buy the
Yeah.
hydrofluoric acid, and the idea that like, hey, I mean, it no longer needs to be purchased, and
Right.
what they were doing as a state, like if we were to really understand the numbers.
And they were purchasing it, they would make a claim that it was a small portion of their budget. So in the grand scheme of things, we're not saving a lot of money. But some cities they're saving $50,000 a year. Some places they're saving $200,000 a year. Some places we're saving $1 million a year. And it's not just buying the product. You've got to buy the equipment, the maintenance room or whatever, the storage room. You've got to do the upkeep on all the equipment because it's so corrosive and it eats through the metal. If it's spilled, it eats through the concrete. So this is very dangerous stuff, which is like, why are we putting this in the water to begin with? Highly corrosive, toxic waste. A lot of people still think it's naturally occurring fluoride or the stuff you get from the dentist. It's literally a toxic waste from the fertilizer phosphate plants, and they found a creative way to sell it to municipalities. So it's like you talk to the water operators, and they're like, "Yeah, this stuff's really deadly. We don't like dealing with it. It eats through the metal. We have to keep buying new equipment." So it's like that cost is adding up too. That risk factor to the employees. So we had a lot on our side. We used to bring these things up, and it didn't always work, but we had some more science. We could bring up the risk factor of it being a toxic waste, the informed consent angles, and it was really just too much for those dental lobby shills and their same tired old arguments about poor kids' teeth falling out because it's just not true.
Yeah, and if to refresh my memory, I think like the studies I read that kind of went about the correlation with children IQ, the claim was it was at like double the limit that is in drinking water. If that
Correct.
You get what I'm saying, so then it's kind of like
Yeah,
it's tough because it's an uphill battle trying to help inform people that don't want to be informed.
I know. And
Yeah,
I fought that silly little argument the whole journey. And that was their one leg to stand on. Oh, well, the studies were looked at with higher amounts of fluoride. Well, if they would have done this much research, they would have seen that Dr. Latipo was touring the state presenting with a doctor who studied fluoride at the low levels, and she found the same thing, lower IQ. And she did studies in the US. So they're like, oh, these studies were in China at 1.5. Well, we've got the scientist right here that did studies in California and found it at zero point 0.7. And they would just turn the other way, ignore it completely. So, it was really difficult for them to not put all the facts on the table. Even bringing this woman into the council meetings, I joked that they was like, what is she, a ghost? Like, do they even see her? We had people stand up and say that those were the only studies, yet the woman was sitting right next to them. It
right.
was very delusional, sort of rebuttals on the pro fluoride side. So there's lots of studies in lots of different countries at lots of different levels, and a lot of them show harm. And like we always say, where there is risk, there must be choice. If one iota of those studies are accurate, then we're putting a ton of children at risk of lower IQ, damaged thyroid, lots of issues.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't like saying unkind things, but when I was sharing some of your updates in my local Facebook groups and people are like sad, doing a sad reaction, it's kind of like, what is there to say? It's like part of me had to control myself to not say
I
like,
know.
thing it works, like only someone who's been dumbed down would be upset about this, or sad. And it's unfortunate because as we know, get your fluoride if you want through your toothpaste, or whatever, it's
Yeah,
like,
it really comes down to personal responsibility. Like these people are like, "Oh, well, who's going to take care of my teeth?" Well, how about you? Why is your city council members taking care of your teeth anyway? Do they take care of your earwax and your nose boogers and your foot fungus? No, they don't. You take care of that because you're an adult and you have personal responsibility. It's just like COVID. If you're scared or you want to do stuff, wear 5 masks, get 12 shots, walk on all the grocery store lines, but you can't make other people do it. You can't make me take an aspirin. You can't spike my water with statin statins or antidepressants because you think it's good for for most people. It's not good for all people, and everyone deserves a choice. So that's what we always just fell back on. It's really insane to think you can add a medication to the water as a one size fits all, where you can't control the dosage to an infant, an elderly person, a huge person, someone with a health condition. I mean, imagine if you just gave two pills to everybody in the city and you didn't check how big they were or what other pills they were taking. I mean, it would just be asinine. But we do this with fluoride.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, it's like I don't want to put too much time into this, but like, doesn't it make sense if people are using fluoride for their teeth, like brush your teeth with toothpaste with fluoride? Because when you're drinking it, it's like barely touching your teeth and like going straight.
Right.
You get what? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. The whole like ingesting thing is crazy, right? Because if it's for your teeth, great, rub it all over. But why am I swallowing it where it goes to my organs in my brain? I mean, that just seems ridiculous. Now, the dentist will claim, as playing devil's advocate, oh, well, the fluoride needs to be in your body and getting into the enamel and absorbing through. And they make all these excuses up of why you need it, like literally inside your body. And even infants, they claim that infants and pregnant women need it. Why? They don't have teeth yet. So, like, oh, well, it's got to build the tooth in the enamel before it comes out, like, help develop it. It's really, really wild what lengths they would go to. So yeah, we could go on for days. You know, they sent a bus of 32 dentists and they still couldn't stop us at one of the meetings. So it was a wild ride.
Well, I gotta say, just because I have this book here, maybe you know this. So allegedly, do you know who invented cotton candy?
No, I don't.
So allegedly, it was a dentist, and it was produced here. This is a picture from the Chicago World Fair of
Yeah.
1893. And when people look into this, I mean, the mystery of the World Fairs, it's like, what is going on? You know, we're told they were temporary expositions, but anyways, that's kind of what we're dealing with. That, you know, think about it. It's not rocket science. A dentist wants more customers. He invents a product like cotton candy.
Right, right. And who's to say that, you know, we know that fluoride leads to brown spotting of the teeth, so like dental fluorosis. So if too much fluoride makes my teeth kind of have problems, am I going to the dentist more now because of fluoride? Who knows? I mean, we all know that they don't teach you about nutrition. They just tell you to put more fluoride on your teeth and go back to doing the same old things. It really does. It wonders if they do enjoy the repeat business, because I'll tell you, as a personal experience, when I quit using fluoride and quit going to the dentist, I don't have cavities anymore. I don't have issues. I just eat healthier and I take care of myself, and it's like you don't need some person to, you know, again, if you have an emergency, great, go see a doctor or a dentist. But to go see them all the time, to take your baby into them repeatedly, to go have them clean your teeth repeatedly, I mean, well, what are we using them for? You can weigh your own child. They don't need vaccinations. You can brush your own teeth. Like, you know, we're outsourcing all this, like our knowledge and these basic things to all these experts that are potentially poisoning us.
See, it's funny, man, because when I was, I think, like 6, I had a couple mercury fillings. And what's
Mm-hmm.
crazy is when I relocated to Kauai, you know, I went out there to really heal, you know, not just on a physical level, but a deep, you know,
Right.
spiritual level. And literally, one of my fillings just fell out. It's like my body knew it was toxic. And now it's kind of public knowledge about mercury fillings, you know, being
Yeah.
toxic. You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how many mistakes does an industry need to make? Be
You
like
know,
really doing the opposite of what people,
you
people
make a great point, because we literally had that come up, and we had one of our advocates say, well, here's a list of things that the ADA used to endorse, the dental association, and it was things like mercury fillings and lead and all these toxic things that we once found out were killing people and harming us. So like you said, how many things are we going to endorse blindly before we take a second look and say, whoa, 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 maybe we should check on this greatest health achievement of mankind or whatnot.
yeah. And I will say, when I was getting my teeth cleaned, I tried to bring this up, but like the cognitive dissonance, you know, where I'm like one person and I'm around all these
Oh,
dentists.
you're,
You know what I mean? They're like, what? What do you mean? You
yeah,
don't.
you're in the wrong place. Those people paid a lot of money for that education. You're not going to convince them in the dentist chair.
I know. So that's why, unfortunately, in a situation like that, it's kind of like I'm in a vulnerable place, you know, like these people are working on me. And It is what it is. So it's kind of funny. But I will say, like, what's your outlook for things? Do you see a prediction of the next state? I mean, obviously, it would be great for this to be every state removing fluoride, right? I mean, we tend to travel even if we live somewhere, and
Yeah, I have like really high ambitions for it. I would love for it to happen. Is it going to happen? I don't know. We've got a lot of places that don't have a surgeon general at all, much less one like Latipo. I think only 6 states have a surgeon general. So a lot of what we were able to accomplish was because of RFK, which you can all use his words and credibility, if your council members think he's credible. But then you've got to have a surgeon general potentially, and that's what we had. So I don't know if other states are going to be able to pull off what we did. We're willing to help. We've created like a model and a template for everyone, and we want to reach out to other states. We're actually in talks with like New York and maybe Louisiana. I'm not sure to get this done as well, but it's going to be potentially more of an uphill battle if I'm being realistic. We'll probably have to go city by city, town by town, but how many states had a governor step up like DeSantis during COVID and who also did during fluoride? It's just going to be really rough. Maybe a couple states will do it, Utah, Arizona, Texas, but I don't know. I don't know if you're going to see like an onslaught of states doing it because you've still got these people who have been propagandized, people who lean left and vote against fluoride just because it appears to be a right thing. It's there's a lot that we're up against, but we're definitely going to try to help these other states.
yeah, I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is like polling to see where the public opinion is, because in my opinion, the public officials, they respond to public opinion. And so all we can try to do is facilitate a groundswell. And that's, in my opinion, the essence of advocacy. And I think, like I was actually a registered lobbyist before for health freedom, and so I was pretty savvy with a lot of the software. So I'm very familiar. Sayer G is an advisor like myself for the National Health Federation. And I'm very familiar with the software they use, for advocacy because the NHF, National Health Federation, utilizes something similar. Sayer just seems to be, I don't know, a little more competent with everything. I mean, for me, I have to work with a group, and it's kind of like sometimes things are slowed down. There's a bottleneck with decision making when it comes to making, decisions for specific campaigns and really trying to get it out there. But it seemed like Stand for Health Freedom, was a big part of this, right? With some of their,
Oh, they were huge, and I'm glad you brought them up before we changed topics. I mean, those were literally, I don't know that I could have done it without them. I mean, yeah, I may have been able to make some noise in some cities, maybe get some cities to flip, but without them, it's not possible. They started this and got cities and counties to flip before the lawsuit was handed down. So 6, 9 months before the lawsuit happened, late last year, they got Collier County, which was huge. And we saw that, and that's what inspired me to start looking at this and have it on my radar more. I'm like, wow, if we get this lawsuit, we're going to be able to really turn it up, and it did. They won against the EPA. They determined that it does lower IQ, and then we just took that, like I said, and ran with it. Stand for Health Freedom really being the muscle behind it. I just used my connections and my platform and my ability to speak at these meetings to just really push as much as we could.
yeah, you do a great job using that, public video as a way to then, kind of cut it shorts and just get it out there, and, of course there has to be a call to action, telling people like, hey, if you live in
Yeah.
Florida, call your reps, call the senator, call the governor's office. I mean, all hands on deck, because when they're getting inundated with phone calls and emails, that's one way that they're gauging the public opinion, and that
Right.
becoming the pressure where they're supposed to be the you know serving the will of the people. So
And I always remind people is you really don't need an army. Like we've done this with a handful of people, 5, 6 people. If you have 3 or 4 people speak at the meeting and there's 10 or 20 calling and emailing because they won't go because they're not, brave enough or knowledgeable. So they start calling and then the city council members are going, wow, we got like 20 emails on this just in the last week. We had 3 people speak at the meeting, 4 more spoke at this week's meeting. Maybe we should talk about this. So you can get something started with a small group of people and they put something on the agenda. Now you've got media attention. Oh, they're talking about fluoride again. Maybe they're going to do what Florida's doing. So you could really just get the fire started and then just build off that. So, gosh, we did it in some cities with less than 5 people. If you've got your facts and you know what you're talking about, a couple strong phone calls with the city council members, and they go, wow, you've got a really good point. Even if fluoride is safe, I can't force it on the residents that don't want it. I never really thought about that. So when you got people saying that over the phone to you, you're like, okay, we're actually getting somewhere. And that happened multiple times. It was encouraging.
That's amazing. Well, here, let's switch gears, okay? Since it's been a little bit since we talked,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's a lot going on. So, I mean, I can't help but think. I'm not sure if you saw Elon Musk with this black guy at the White House. Did you see that?
Yeah, very, very briefly. I don't know what that's about, or I'm sure there's plenty of theories, right?
New York Times calling him out for his like drug use and then him
Oh, wow.
discrediting it. So come on, we got to talk about a little bit of that because what we had, gosh, when was it? Wasn't he somewhat associated with rescuing the astronauts,
Yeah, I think so.
and they landed in Florida. I mean, what near the Panhandle? That was all real. That definitely was.
All allegedly, right? There's just that's why he could never be trusted. That's why I could never ever, take anything to the bank with what's going on with him and Trump because it's just this guy's been hand in hand with DOD and NASA and all these companies for so long. I mean, what do you really expect? So
Well,
it is interesting to see his sort of exit from the Trump admin after all this hoopla that he's been doing.
I find it hilarious because allegedly he was all upset about the big beautiful bill.
Yeah,
How it's kind of like counterproductive with Doge. But then I can't help but think how if anyone looks at how much money has gone into space, like
I know. If you really want to cut spending, like just expose NASA tomorrow morning. Tell them they've been faking all this, but then he would have a lot of explaining to do too with the car in space.
yeah, so that's why I kind of find the whole thing just comical because what else can we do,
Mhm.
when it's like he's so passionate about cutting wasteful spending while being involved in like
I know some of the most wasteful spending.
yeah.
Well, it's ironic because he thought he was going to get a bunch of government people to cut spending too. I mean, I don't know what he thought. I mean, it was great, great, great idea. If everyone's genuine and he's not corrupt and faking space, I mean, yeah, I'd love to cut waste, fraud, and abuse too. But I think we all know that was kind of unrealistic.
I think you were so occupied with the fluoride fight, but did you catch the whole Blue Origins debacle?
I barely did. I had to talk about it on a live broadcast with people, and I was like, I had to go like look it up because
Yeah.
I'm like, it looks horrible. It looks fake. I saw everyone and their mother. That was one thing I noticed is it looked like the most people ever in from all walks of life were calling it out as fraudulent.
Mhm.
Even people who don't even question NASA and space stuff. So it was interesting to see what was going on there. Like why do it so badly?
But it kind of fades away, because it's like,
Yep.
all these mistakes, like them opening a door that they shouldn't be able to open, and oopsie, and it's like all of this stuff, and then the video and like everything, and then unfortunately, whatever we want to call it, the news cycle or people's attention span, it's
Yeah,
like,
it's almost like as if there's just like an agenda to just have like a new distraction every week and a half so that it really just keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's one week it's Ukraine, the next week it's Blue Origin, the next week it's, some fiasco, some terrorist attack, and then you just stay hooked and you don't ever look at, the things that are going on behind the scenes, the real horrible bills and the horrible sneaky activity that they're doing. Like partnering with companies like Palantir to make databases of us and stuff. It's not easy to look past the culture war BS and see that they're taking away our rights every day.
yeah. So here, let's just kind of, I don't know, take a bird's eye view. So I found it interesting that the first um, world leader that visited Trump was Netanyahu. And then
Hmm.
Trump's first overseas diplomatic trip was in the Middle East. And I'm
Hmm.
not sure if you heard, I mean, I was kind of getting a little hopeful that maybe Trump would announce U.S. recognition of Palestine being state. I mean, obviously going to Saudi Arabia, the UAE. Where else did he go? Qatar. Getting
Yeah, yeah.
you get what I'm saying. So I was, some of it. It's like I try not to be, too hopeful, but there was a lot of headlines that he had kind of cut communication with Netanyahu.
Yeah, I saw that.
The advisor was kind of skirting around, Trump and talking and stuff. But then I don't know, Trump was interviewed and kind of just continued the same, rhetoric. But I do got to commend you for your post that you just did. I think what yesterday or recently, just kind of reflecting on what if this was Orlando, because I've seen it.
Hmm.
And I know you have too. I mean, you're a father. It's terrible when I see videos of like a kid on a roof, like badly injured and looking at his siblings dead. And it's like
Hmm.
realizing that's just a very small, snapshot. But then to realize like how there's people that think it's necessary or they're not questioning. And, I find it all connected, man, because when we, like I was joking with you, I mean, I really wonder what you and I disagree about because when we look at the truth about World War II, and then we start looking at like, wait a minute, like right after that, the CIA is formed, and then Israel, and then Mossad, and then you have NASA, and this
Yeah.
stuff. It's like and then this idea of like the best prison is when someone doesn't know they're in prison. So the idea of the whole heliocentric deception, kind of
Yep.
people enslaved. Plus,
Well, it,
whole politic issue with like statism and volunteerism and not understanding that as well.
yeah, it's you just hit the nail on two of the biggest, most forbidden topics, two of the most evil ones, because one of them's lying to us about the fabric of reality and history, and one of them is like slaughtering innocent people for decades. But yeah, it's really crazy. I came up. I posted about like I came up from air from fluoride, and it was just a shame to see my government still, sponsoring the genocide over there, and it's tough to watch. I have to keep saying something about it because I just can't. I can't sleep at night without saying something about it every now and then. Because if with like you said, with enough public pressure, I think we can stop it or slow it down. But it's a really frustrating one because it seems to be. I'm just all about stopping the mass poisoning and the mass death. So if you stop the wars and you tell the truth about why we go to the Middle East, whether Israel or U.S., you stop a lot of mass death for no reason. And then if you stop all the chemical toxicity, like the things I talk about, fluoride, chemtrails, 5G vaccines, these a lot of what our problems go away. At that point, all we need to do is get the media honest and kick NASA out. But yeah, those are two of the biggest ones, man, and they're sometimes they're really hard to talk about. But you've got to pick your battles. You've got to be strategic. Um, the Israel one is so hard to unpack because you have people who the narrative is so backwards. People think that it's only a group of evil terrorists versus just a total group of innocent people, and then there's like 8 million nuances and so much history to it. And Israel's truly the invader, occupier, and the biggest terrorist in the world because they prop up and sponsor and fund all the bad guys. Just like, and that's what kind of gets me too is there's so much evidence and so many Americans that understand that we allowed 9/11, that we fund the radical groups just to go fight them, just to complete our land grabs and mass killings in the Middle East. But then Israel does pretty much the same formula, and everyone buys it hook, line, and sinker. Like, you don't think Hamas isn't propped up by Mossad, just like ISIS was propped up by CIA? You don't think that Mossad helped and allowed October 7th, just like the CIA and Mossad allowed and helped 9/11? Like, it's their parallels are so striking. But yet people are like, oh my God, no, they raped and killed people, oh, and they're just emotions. So it's such a emotionally driven, long deception. It's just very hard to unpack, especially when you've got people with these emotionally driven knee jerk comments in on Instagram and on social media platforms. They say one thing about let's please stop killing tens of thousands of children, in just a 6 month span. And who, oh, why are you a Jew hating terrorist lover? Like, whoa, like how we have so much to do here. Like, you don't even know what the region was called. Who was there first? Who started bombing first? Like, do you know how much that is to unpack? There's evidence that Zionism sponsored the first terrorist attack ever in the Middle East. So, like, who are we really to blame here? Who's the real root, what's the root of the problem? People say, oh well, Israel has a right to defend itself. Well, don't the Palestinians? I think if people came and knocked on my door and said, hey, my Bible and the Rothschild said that I get your home, get out, I'd probably fight to the death. And if they did it for decades and I survived, I might form a resistance group with people to try to survive. And it sounds like that's what's happening over there. And they just frame any potential resistance as terrorists. And it's crazy, Now you can watch it in HD, 4K, live on your phone. You can watch the locals, watch the journalists, watch the kids blown apart, and people still just claim it's like Photoshop or fake. The delusion, the cognitive dissonance is real, and it's probably one of the strongest ever with that topic. But we can't stop speaking out on it because, like you said, I can't watch children on roofs under rubble crying over their dead family members and just it's awful. But yeah,
Well,
there's a lot there.
I'd love to hear your opinions on solutions because I'm a big believer. Like, if we're gonna put our efforts into something, it's addressing the root cause. And so, my opinion is APAC needs to register as a foreign agent. And we
Oh
know
yes.
last time this was attempted, what ended up happening. But times are different now, and so yeah, I mean that's what I was kind of hoping with Trump, and I was kind of feeling like there was maybe a groundswell happening where he was going to kind of address APAC and this idea that, like, how can you be America first when there's a foreign agent that's basically bought off our government? And
Right, exactly.
unfortunately, that's the other thing too with you, man, because there's tons of pictures of DeSantis kissing the wall and get going. You know what I mean? So it's very weird
Yep.
how, like, okay, he can be great on banning geoengineering and through COVID and all this stuff, but then
Yep.
be
There's
missing.
there's pretty much always one topic that every single politician that you think is great or maybe does some good things. There's not many that are great, but the few that we have that do some good things, they're always beholden to Israel. They always bow and kiss that ring. Are they just scared of the blackmail and the fallout because you don't want to be an anti-Semite? That's the most cancelable career suicide thing, maybe, but that's a big problem. But yeah, as for solutions, I think I don't know. I guess registering APAC as a foreign entity is more realistic. I would like to just abolish, ban them, ban whatever you got to do to BB to never let them allow to come to America, never speak here again,
Hasn't
never
this
come over here and sell us those lies.
like when we look throughout history, there's like 109 countries that have tried to do this, and it's like,
Yeah, yeah, I know.
you know,
Well, you put him in prison for life, and you have trials against all the Mossad agents and all the deep state leaders of Israel, which is pretty unrealistic. I mean, people claim they're trying to do that in America, and I don't know that it'll ever happen, but that's what you do. But I think on a better, we just keep doing what we're doing. I think we've never seen so much exposing of Israel's war crimes and control of American politics than we ever have. TikTok, the internet has been such a blessing because so many people are seeing this. The younger generation understands it. We're living in a world where soon, when we get a little older, the younger people, it's just not going to fly. There's just going to be more eyes on the genocide. There will be more eyes on the APAC influence. And, you've got sectors of the conservative and Trump camps that are even saying hell no, like the Hodge twins and Jake Shields and Tucker Carlson, comic Dave Smith. These people that are in all these big talking circles are starting to, say things against what's going on with Israel. So that's very encouraging. I think an inevitable thing with NASA and Israel is something that we got with fluoride and vaccines. We are going to get an awakening of it, and then we're going to get a tipping point. And when that happens, we'll just be able to watch it play out. Like I could have never did anything with fluoride this whole time. And Stand for Health Freedom and a bunch of people probably would have still got a bunch of stuff done and got some stuff passed and maybe even got the state ban too. So it was inevitable, but we push it, we full court press the whole time. But I think it's going to play out. I'm very confident that those two big topics you just brought up
yeah.
are going to unravel. I just don't know when. It's just they're still a little too taboo for everyone to really open up to, unless we get a big COVID moment like with NASA. the ISS, allegedly crashes or some big thing happens and we expose the video. I don't know, but we got to hope for a watershed moment.
Well,
Um,
let's share for those who don't know what NASA in Hebrew means.
yeah, right.
It does.
Allegedly, it means to deceive, doesn't it?
So there's a little bit of that, and then something you may not know that I just found out. Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's father,
Yeah,
did
yeah.
that he purchased McGraw Hill, the
Yes, I knew that.
company that produced all of the textbooks
Yeah,
for.
all of our textbooks. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I don't like to be that guy that's like, oh, the Jews are behind everything. But I mean, when you look at who was behind 9/11 and JFK and,
USS Liberty, and that's what
all that, our textbooks, Jeffrey Epstein, the media, everyone jokes about the Kanye West thing, but when he's like, these people control my life and my bank account, and they were like, no, he doesn't. You're an anti-Semite. And the very next day, they took away his entire life and bank account and his kids. So like, what are just underlined it? I mean,
with that song on May 8th, the day
yeah,
Allies won, but one doesn't have to be a historian to look into General Patton and how he
mm,
admitted that the United States should have fought with the Germans. Like he said that, and then
right.
and then all of a sudden he is dead. It's very strange. So that's what I'm really hoping. Like for example, like Helen Keller. All of us had to read that in school.
I know.
It was written with a pen that like wasn't even invented at the alleged time that was written. So that's like I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but there's so many
No,
examples.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so like her whole diary was written with this pen, and the dates don't add up. You know,
Huh.
so
Yeah,
like
well, I mean,
look
anything
into when
we're beat over the head,
pens were.
anything we're beat over the head with, I think, is like a strong case for reassessing and seeing if it's a bunch of BS.
Well, the
Because if we've
problem is,
learned over time,
yeah, there's so many facts, but we can learn from the fluoride issue. How
yeah,
you can give the facts, you can be coherent, you can be concise, but if people are committed to staying misinformed, so it doesn't matter if it's fluoride or if it's NASA or if it's the truth about World War II. It's like the cognitive dissonance, and sometimes
right.
I reduce it to just whether somebody has a fixed mindset or a growth mindset.
Mm,
It's really that simple, and
yeah,
sometimes
that's true.
society, people get conditioned to have a fixed mindset where like what they learned in school was most of their learning. And like we all go through it, man. When we're trying to learn new things, there's a learning curve and people get in their own way when they're not like a youthful child. It's kind of why I think about it, man. Like it's difficult for adults to learn new languages. But we
100%.
we were an infant, it's like because we weren't getting in our own way. And the idea
Yeah.
that adults with interesting egos, kind of are hard on themselves, when they're learning new things and sometimes
It's
accept
just, I
wrong.
think it's such a hard thing to penetrate too, because you're dealing with people that think, okay, my parents had it figured out, my teachers have it figured out, the lawyers, the doctors, all the journalists, they all have it figured out. They've been in this world, they're all experts, they've been doing it for 50, 30, 40 years. All these people are experts in their field. Society must have it figured out. And then you go through all the schooling and you're like, all right, I got it figured out too. So you're right. At that point, it's like, who's going to walk in, say they watch some YouTube videos, and tell me everything I know about science and medicine and politics and the economy is all wrong, and foreign policy, not all of it, but most of it's misdescribed and a bunch of lies. So it's like it's really hard to tell people their whole everything they thought they had figured out was a bunch of garbage, a bunch of false premises, misdirection, and it's I don't know. Thankfully, I guess I wasn't super beholden to a lot of those things. I wasn't like a science nerd or a history nerd or I liked sports, so no one really took my sports from me. I guess people claim it's rigged, but I didn't. I could care less. But I don't know. I didn't have all those things beholden to me. I wasn't a strong Republican or Democrat or anything. So once I found out it was all corrupt, I'm like, oh wow, just toss it all out then.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I like to simplify it, man. Like the essence of science is like wondering and like being curious.
Mm,
And it's kind of the opposite of thinking it's already been figured out. Like, oh, there was a big bang and here we
yeah.
are and our ancestor, the ape, and
It's like that scene out of Truman.
of advanced civilization right now, you know.
I know it's like the scene out of Truman. I always love to mention that the kid is so full of curiosity, and he's like, "Oh, I want to explore. I want to be an explorer like Magellan." And the teacher just pulls down the map, and she's like, "Done. It's already been explored. There's nothing left." And it's just like all of that was crushed in an instant. And and then we learned that there might be more to the map out there, and like as 20, 30, 40-year-old people that figured out this lie about where we live, I've now, and I know all of us are more curious than ever about what the map really looks like. And I was never curious about the map. I was like, cool, I know where the states go on my little magnet thing. That was it. Now it's like, wow, there could be more stuff out there. So it's just like the stars, the world, the beyond the ice, all that is so much more fascinating when you let go of the heliocentric model.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm convinced we're gonna break free like Truman did in our lifetime. And
I
it's not
hope so, man.
for us, man. It's for the kids and it's for posterity because it's like how because sometimes eventually, like if we imagine we're in the future and we're looking back to be like, why did we let this happen for as long as we did? You know, like imagine Truman just never
Yeah.
starting to just question, you know what I mean? Because eventually it's like it's
I
normal
think we just
poison to be, you know, have people at war so then people are distracted and not focused on the hidden hand, you know, because really we have all the power, dude. Like our minds are infinite. Like we create reality, but when people are in a vibration of fear, they're not in this empowered state of activating what it means to create reality like we do. Like we can do it individually, you know, but we're supposed to work together and you know, live heaven on earth. And I feel like when I was in Hawaii, I kind of felt selfish because I'm like, this is it. Like this is
yeah, yeah.
the earth. But then I started really getting sensitive to be like, why is there world hunger? Like, why is there poverty? You know, it doesn't make sense. It's
It
like,
doesn't make sense. Yeah, there really shouldn't be. And especially when you learn about all the free energy technology and the ways that we could live without most of our bills, it's just such a control system. And it's sad because then you've got people starving, hungry, being shot at while they try to, go to get food in Gaza. It's terrible.
yeah, I really do wonder. I mean, it's tough to stay up to date with this. Like, what is going on? Because like, you know, allegedly, like certain countries in Europe were getting upset about like food not being allowed in, and
Yeah, I think it's this constant like back and forth tug of war. Kind of like you mentioned with the Trump thing. Those headlines were encouraging for like what 48 hours, and then it just sort of fell apart. It would look like he may have been sidelining Israel, but then they're just right back at it. Like my friend told me, he was like, "Yeah, until they stop the weapons from going, I don't want to hear about it."
I don't mean to cut you off, but I will say, think about it, man. Even though Kanye's song, it is what it is. Like a month ago, that didn't exist, and now
Right.
you know that became like the number one song in Spotify worldwide. Like,
It
is that
was on Spotify.
yeah, like the album, not the
Wow.
song,
Oh, okay.
the album, like World War III, and then people were, you know, they were accessing it, but it kept getting deleted like every time. But
Yeah, yeah.
that became like the most listened. So that's all
Right.
I'm saying. Like, so that, in my opinion, think about for all we know, because it's tough to really track like people waking up, you know. But I choose to be, you know, I don't like to say delusional, but like delusionally optimistic that like nature, God, the universe wants us to be free and wants us to be intelligent and wants us to like overcome this deception that
Yeah.
you don't have to be a genius to overcome. You just have to have some moral courage and some intellectual honesty and love people. And,
Yeah.
you know,
That's we could learn a lot from that statement right there. But yeah, I think hopefully more of those countries speak out. We see people stand up, and the more that do, you just have to make enough noise. If enough countries are boycotting and not going to send support, and it's just really on the world stage that they're looking really bad, public pressure can do just about anything. If enough public pressure gets Trump to say you got to stop, and enough world leaders are calling Bibi and saying you got to stop, you got to chill, I feel like that's the only thing that can, because they're pretty relentless. They're psychopaths over there. They purposely want to target men, women, and children, every single person, babies and all.
And like you said, it's unfortunate because when we look at how much money the US has sent to them, it's kind of like there's blood on all of our hands, man.
I know.
Quickly, and that's what's messed up. And all I can say, it's like I think Thomas Massey is the only one that like truly hasn't accepted any money from APAC. And
Yeah, I think he is one of the only ones.
yeah, and
He
it's sad.
always,
I don't know what happened. His wife died like right after he went on Tucker and explained he's like the only one that doesn't have an APAC babysitter.
I
And
know.
him
I
and
don't know what that was about, man. That was a really, awful, strange occurrence. He never made it sound like it was anything, more than what it was. So I'm not sure what to believe on it.
he has
I
two.
will say he has spoken out on Israel and APAC quite a bit. So, but that was a big one. That was Tucker, and that was in this day and age when they're really in the hot seat. So,
Yeah, and I got to give some credit to Dan Blazarian because I know some could be like, oh, womanizer and whatever, but it's like
right,
the dude at one point was, considered to have like, one of the most viewed social media accounts. And this is what he's choosing to focus on, And so
right.
it is really interesting. But how about as we kind of get close to wrapping this up, you share about the film coming out? Because for those who don't know, Hibbler Productions has made some incredible videos. I mean, I'd love to interview him. I think his name's Sean, right? Sean
Yep.
Hibbler.
Yeah, Sean's got a new film coming out called Climate Trails, and he's going to be, he's done films on everything, so he's doing a chemtrail one. He's got Kristen Megan, Monty Fritz, which was one of the, I think the governor or one of the senators in probably a senator in Tennessee who helped put the bill in Tennessee to stop geoengineering. So I flew to Texas, and I've been a part of this film. I was speaking at a particular meeting. It's going to be used in the film. So a lot of the fluoride work that you saw, or if people have seen, that's typically what I'm going to be doing in this film is speaking, trying to encourage people to basically raise awareness and get their local council members to do something about this. Even though it's in federal airspace, they can still make noise. So that's sort of what my message is. I'm really excited to see the film. I don't know a whole lot about it. I did kind of my part, and I'm just excited to see what he puts together because he never disappoints. Like all of his are really good projects. He did the Occupied on Israel and Zionism. He's done quite a few flat Earth films. He's done one on Michael Jackson, vaccines, quite a bit.
Did you see
The
Old
Old World.
Order? I was going to say, yeah.
Yep, Old World Order was a good one.
And then what was the one with Stu Peters?
Oh,
Oc-
that was Occupied.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Occupy. I mean, I thought it was spot on, but
Yeah, it was good. And like you said, much respect to Dan, no matter what people did in their past, if you're willing to use a platform that big and risk everything, which that's what you did by being that big and speaking like that, then I got to give respect where it's due. Um, but yeah, Sean's film will be out this summer. So I don't know what date, but keep an eye out for it. Climatetrails.com. And you can also check out Hibbler Productions on Instagram.
well, do you keep tabs with Candace Owens? Because at one point, Austin Whitsitt was claiming he was going to be on Candace because
Yeah,
Candace,
I thought she was supposed to have him on at some point. I thought she was also maybe supposed to be sending someone from her crew down to Antarctica. I don't know whatever happened with that. I don't have any contact with her. She's kind of a hard person to reach. Well, at least in my experience, like I've never come across anyone that's got like a connection to her. Not that I've tried too hard, but yeah, I don't know. I know I saw Ian Carroll is doing like her show now as part of her show.
I was watching some of that earlier. I mean, I try to like the more we learn about controlled opposition, and then you bring up people like Tucker because it's almost like some of these people, they know they have to address certain things because there's a select amount of us that are researching this, but it's like then they technically don't. It's kind of like with Candace, how she went in to expose the origins of NASA. And she basically had, experts admit, like, yes, we didn't go to the moon, but then it kind of doesn't go any further. You know what I mean? And it's kind of
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is the one thing we'll disagree on. I actually do have an unpopular opinion with this, but I am of the opinion that there's far less controlled opposition out there than there is, like way far less. Like I think most of the things that we see are Well, I think we're all very distrustful of all things because of what we've been through. So we're like checking everything a million times. So anyone that comes out of nowhere is suspect. Anyone that isn't necessarily talking about the things that we think. I'm not saying you're doing this, but we all probably have done it. It's like, oh, they're talking about it that way. That clearly makes us look bad. They know better. They're here to make us look stupid, or they won't talk about X, Y, Z. And some people may be scared to talk about certain things, flat Earth and Israel, and therefore they're self-censoring themselves. They didn't get a call from the government to shut up or we're going to kill you. They haven't been a double agent the whole time. Maybe they're self-censoring. Does that person fall under the controlled opposition? I don't know, and I think everyone may have a different definition for it. I look at it as more so of like someone that's been working on the other side the whole time and is like sort of pretend like an Elon Musk. Um, but I really don't think like even the Mark Sargents and the David Ikes and the Russell Brands. I really don't. I think that these are people that have pick and choose their battles. They don't speak out on everything. We wish they would. I feel like sometimes we get like a celebrity, like a Joe Rogan, and we're like, how can you not be a truther? How come you don't see it? But then I got mutual friends with people like Eddie Bravo, and they tell me that no, it's just him. He's just that guy. He hasn't looked into that yet. He's not ready to look into that. He's got cognitive dissonance. Like, so I don't know. I don't know that these people are shills. I haven't seen over time, in my experience, most of the accusations end up being disagreements, ego problems, paranoia. So it's just so I don't know. It doesn't really add up to me. But that's kind of my take on it. And maybe I'm just naive and hopeful and want to see the best in people. And I'm like, all right, I trust you until I have verifiable proof that you're working for the government. But like after all these years, like I still think that Alex Jones and David Icke might just be flawed and still have cognitive dissonance like human beings.
Oh, I respect that. I mean, I'm not claiming like Candace Owens is controlling
Right.
the position.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, for example, you brought up Ian Carroll. So some people are like, oh, why is he wearing the
Hmm.
Bala bracelet or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever? And sometimes it's just like, and the idea that they'll kind of, just not because it's like for Candace, it's like she was already on that momentum. Like, why not just get Austin Whitson on? Like, why not? Like, it
Right.
deal people going to Antarctica. I mean, I'm sorry, but I got to bring him up with Jaron. He was episode
Yeah.
3. I hit it off with him. He had me on his show a few times. We're talking about Moringa. Everything's cool. And like now I'm just completely dumbfounded. And I know you are too. But it's like,
Yeah. That one's dumbfounding. I don't know what to make of that one. Yeah, and I don't know if
shared the
it's
whole
just
journey on my podcast about everything. And it's like, none of it, I don't even know, man. It's like,
I'm never really gonna like have I'm not gonna say bad things about people, and I don't have any ill will towards anyone like Jaron, but it does kind of blow me away that out of all the 200 proofs, pun intended, or all the other things that we have from level water to airplanes and long distance observations that one little hiccup with the sun can cause us to literally throw everything away. I just don't get it, so it's unfortunate that that happened. I wish because I kind of wish I don't know if I wish the trip never happened because the trip in my mind has caused so much drama and crap. Really, it's just like was it even worth it? What did we go? But I'm glad that we went down there and saw something. Some people even think they faked the sun. I'm not. I don't think they faked the trip by any stretch. I know they went, but I'm open to them faking the sun.
what are your views on the sun? Because I mean, I had a conversation with Jaron, and I'm like, Jaron, like if there's a dome, it's a refraction, like kind of like it's a lens. Like from my understanding, I remember when I kind of woke up to like the sun being a local phenomenon, and I'm like, it's just an apparent thing, like it's local
See
for
that
everybody, kind of.
that's where I kind of go with it. It's like, what is the one thing we've learned about the sun and the moon after all this with this topic is that we know less and less about it. I don't know what the moon's made of, how it works, how it gets cold or how they get hot, and how far away they are, how big they are, if we can really go to them. Like, I don't know any of that. It's just be all these question marks now. So for one, the sun could have been faked. I think they could have that technology. They do clearly present that and have patents. Second of all, it could just be doing something that we don't understand. What if the sun and moon are just, we're not meant to understand them, how they're up there and how they work, and how we can see them from certain areas. So I'm open to that. You've got Joe Hanvey's model that clearly depicts a potential 24-hour sun situation in a dome. So like, there's explanations out there. I don't jump to like they had to fake the trip or they had to fake the sun because it doesn't fit my belief. But like, there's options, and it still doesn't make bendy water. It still doesn't make a vacuum next to an adjacent like atmosphere. It doesn't fix all those problems. So yeah, I don't know.
The elephant in the room that we don't have a continuous raw video footage of the Earth, like from space. It's like
Yeah, yeah, that too.
once and for all, we have the biggest industry in the world, space, and we went to the moon, what, 50, 60 years ago, and we can't figure out how to put a camera in space to just settle this once and for all.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the problem is, you don't have to be a genius to be like, okay, if the International Space Station is like almost 300 miles away, and we're looking up and there's a plane 3 miles and we can barely see it, it's like, okay, so something that's 300 miles away, like we can see. And then even with the moon, like the moon's interesting because the moon, you even with a pair of binoculars, like you can really zoom in on it.
Yeah, you
With the
can.
sun, we can't really do that unless, we're using some type of solar filter or something. But I'm just saying, it's like for the moon to be a quarter of a million miles away, but you can like look right at it, like super
I
crisp.
know.
So there's certain things where that's where like a common sense, where someone doesn't have to be, have a lot of horsepower upstairs to really,
Or
you
how
know,
about seeing the moon from different points on Earth where it would be impossible if you were on a globe?
well,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point because I think a lot like this shouldn't be rocket science. Like we should have, a friend in Australia, we're in Florida, someone's over in Asia, and like figuring it out, it'd be like,
right?
see the moon and I see the moon, like what is going on? Because what's interesting is the moon and sun. That's like the one thing we all see, because people are always like, well, why can't I see the Statue of Liberty from the Eiffel Tower or whatever? And then you have to explain, like, if you're in an Olympic sized pool, like, and you're looking across, you can't even see the other side. Or if you go to Vegas and you're in a huge
Right,
hotel, you can't even
right.
see the end. Like,
Really can't now.
yeah.
And I think even Dave or somebody's had a whistleblower pilot reach out to him and say at a certain altitude on a really clear day, you can pretty much see the sun all day. Like, it doesn't set, and you could see it out there. So I don't know if it was 40, 50,000 feet, but just above cruising altitude where they tell us we're supposed to fly, if you get high enough and it's clear enough, you should be able to see the sun, which just shows it doesn't set, or it doesn't set over any imaginary curve.
Yeah. Well, I like to think, I don't even know what to say. Like, there should be no mysteries, of anything. Like, we should, but, part of it is all a mystery. But I don't know about you, but I like to think of it all as a clock. And like, a clock
Yeah,
shouldn't be that difficult. Like, it's different gears and they're all working together and there's cycles going on.
exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's the most perfect timepiece ever created in the sky.
Exactly. And in my opinion, that is the model, because I think with someone like Jaron, and I had this conversation with him, I think he was so fixated on like the model, like the alleged model of like, this is the model where like the sun, is traveling all in a giant circle. And like, you know what I mean? And there was no consideration of like a dome or the sun through it or what. And because that didn't agree with his model, it was just too much, And
Yeah.
well, and then I tried to be like, well, I never even believed that model to begin with. So like for me, it wasn't really, I was just grateful, like, hey, they're going there. And, but unfortunately it exposed a lot of people, like, people like Dustin Nemos, that I feel like
Yeah.
I had him on TruthLab. And to be honest, it was a little too much. I didn't feel comfortable even uploading it to Rumble. And, I felt like it was a waste of time, like that debate with, Dave.
It was.
I
It
mean,
was
like,
bad.
yeah, and I get what you're saying that, like, yeah, there's patents for a sun simulator, but it's like, it's just sometimes we have to be very intentional on like what are we putting our attention on? Because I like to say knowledge isn't free. We have to pay attention.
Right. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, is there any way you'd like to, wrap this up? I know we could keep going, but like I told you to begin with, man, we gotta.
No, not that I can think of. I mean, if anybody needs help buying or selling a home in Florida, you can reach out to me. If you want me to help you get fluoride out of your state and you're not in Florida, reach out. Go to stanfordhealthfreedom.com. We'll get you the guide on how to get fluoride out of your water. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Telegram. Those are the places I'm most active. Facebook, Justin underscore We Are Change on most platforms, and Justin Robert on Facebook.
Perfect, man. Well, I guess to come full circle, is there anything fruiting at your property? I know you had that Valencia
Oh
mango.
yeah, yeah. We've got some mangoes popping out here, and some lots of peppers. What else do we have? Some blueberries, but this silly blue jay keeps taking them from me, so I've got to prevent that. But yeah, we've got some things going.
That's awesome, man. And I'm sure it lights you up just, not having to think about this bigger stuff and just spending time with your kid and enjoying food you're growing. And
Yeah, sometimes just enjoying the backyard is the most peaceful thing that you can do, especially in this crazy world.
yeah, man. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate it. I think it's cool that, you were episode 7. This was 14. So I expect you to
Nice.
stay for 21. We'll kind of get a little cycle here. We'll keep coming around and looping back. But thank you for everything you're doing, man. And I can't wait to connect with you in person. I mean, we're so close yet, so far.
Yeah, not too far away. We'll do it sometime soon. I appreciate it. Thanks
Yeah,
for
I mean,
having me.
who knows? Maybe we'll have to talk, man, about putting on an event or something. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be open to it. Whether it's something in Orlando, I mean, Orlando is one of the best places to put on, conferences and stuff. But for a while, have you been to Coral Castle in
Yeah,
Hawaii?
I have been there actually. It's a really cool place.
Yeah, so I've thought about being able to rent like a big Airbnb, or there's accommodations nearby and we could do like a type of, retreat there or something. I've spent a lot of time there and there's
Yeah,
ways.
that would be a cool place because that's a cool thing to go see that people have probably never seen, and it's something right up our alley.
Yeah, and there's times when like I had all this synchronicity when I went there. I could go on about it, but allegedly 33-degree Freemasons go there as an initiation.
Oh, really?
Which is very interesting. So we kind of have to harness that energy for the awakening, compared to, continuing to deceive. But I've gone there for meditations where people are meditating other megalithic sites, and our intention is peace on earth, higher consciousness, awakening. So
Right.
something like that, where we just had a small group of people where we're all just kind of, vibrating and kind of hoping for getting out of the Truman Show. And
Yeah, absolutely. That's the answer.
yeah, and then maybe the next adventure is we're just gonna do it, man. We're gonna get a boat and we're gonna do what we need to do.
Well, hopefully getting the fluoride out of the water is going to have people open the minds and get us some more help to do that right
Yeah,
there.
'cause trust me, I'm like you, man. I love helping people selling by homes, but what if there's just continents waiting? That's like
Right.
so. I don't know about you, but I find that a lot more exhilarating than maybe there's an Earth 50 light years away.
I know.
I think Elon, is now talking about Mars again now that he's not at the White House anymore.
Good. We can hopefully expose him in that soon. I hope they do bring the NASA headquarters to Orlando because if they or not to Orlando but to the Cape Canaveral. Because if they bring the NASA headquarters here, that just brings more NASA activity, more ways for us to sneak up on them and mess with them.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I know we could keep going, but thanks again. I really appreciate it. Have a great
Yeah, I
night.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Peace,
All
Justin.
right.
Bye. Thanks for everybody for tuning in.